Let's go, it's the Whitey Show. Whitey Show. Whitey Show. Whitey Show. Whitey Show. Okay, so Alan Wake's story is about Alan Wake, who's a writer, and everything he's writing is coming true. So that's kind of a bad thing when you're writing a horror story. And his wife is basically taken by the darkness, and the whole idea of the story is light versus darkness, good versus evil type of deal. Now, there's plenty of twists and turns in this game. It doesn't hold back on that, and you would expect that from a horror type, suspenseful type, thriller type, all these different genre type stories in one. So it is good for that, and it will keep you engaged for the most part, but I have a problem with the story. Basically, it starts off pretty good, even great, I believe, in chapter 2, but then as it progresses, this may just be me, but I'm losing interest. I'm really not giving a crap, because you know what they do in this game? Throw in a lot of filler. Like, every time you're about to get to a place, something happens and you have to go back and take 20 minutes to do that little thing, like opening up a light or saving somebody, and it just takes away from the overall story that's driving the game. So I really had a problem with too much filler thrown in. So let me break it down. The goods are that the voice acting, for the most part, is great. There's barely any bad voice acting in the game. The dialogue is interesting for the most part, and there is a story. It is a story-driven game. There's plenty of cinemas to keep you engaged. The bad are basically the too much fillers thrown in the story, and you really feel like, why do they keep throwing in this stupid 20-minute diversion into the main story? And the lip sync is so bad in this game at times, it takes away from the story. It feels like I'm playing a Japanese anime game. So bad sometimes. I don't know what they were thinking when they did the lips and matching the voices, but I mean, overall, the story is better than most games, and it's not bad, just too much filler, people. Too much filler. The graphics, for the most part, are pretty good. I really have no complaints about it. The atmosphere is great. It's dark, it's scary, it's spooky. Very good for what the game's trying to throw at you. I would say the character models are so-so, and the movements can be a little stiff, I guess, or weird. But those are very little minor complaints. The graphics, for the most part, are great, and probably the strongest thing in the game, to be honest. There's really not too many things to say bad about the graphics. Definitely a, big production game in terms of graphics. Okay, the Alan Wake gameplay is basically putting a shooter in a horror game. Usually in horror games, the combat sucks. In this game, it doesn't. However, I'll get to the bad things in a while. But let me talk about the combat. Basically, you aim your flashlight at an enemy until the aiming reticle goes down, and then bam, you can shoot him with a gun and kill him. It's very simple. It's basically using your flashlight to weaken him and then killing him with a gun. It's not bad gameplay. It doesn't feel broken. For the most part, it works, and it's not a bad idea to use different ideas like light and gun at the same time, because just shooting kind of gets boring in games, you know what I'm saying? But to me, there's a few negative things in the gameplay. One, I don't feel there's enough weapons. Basically, for the weapons you get in terms of killing people or killing the darkness, is you get a shotgun, a pistol, and a hunter rifle. Nobody's going to use the hunter rifle when you have a fucking shotgun. You also can get a flare gun, but that's like a rocket launcher, so that doesn't count. Overall, it's like 4 weapons, and you can use flash grenades, but those are just like regular grenades in every other game. I would like a few different types of weapons, but it's very minor complaint. This is my least to talk about, but it does feel like there's too little in terms of weapon variety in this game. What I will say that I didn't like too much is I hate that the dodge button is the same button as running, and dodge just feels weird. It's cool when you do it because it goes into a slow motion thing, but it just feels like it's not working really well with the run button, because when you click dodge, he starts running anyway, and then when you're running and you want to dodge, you have to stop running and click it again. It's just not a good idea to put dodge and run in the same button. Also, I will say some of the enemies are very irritating to fight. The objects that get possessed by the darkness are probably the most annoying fucking enemies in the game. They basically throw like refrigerators or cars at you, and yeah, it's not too hard to dodge. It's just annoying to fight them. They're not really fun to fight, and when you're fighting enemies that aren't fun to kill, it's not really fun to play, you know what I'm saying? And last but not least, the game gets very repetitive towards the end. The game starts off with fights every few minutes, whereas in the end it feels like there's a fight every section. Almost every minute you're going to be in another fight. And the gameplay isn't the strongest thing. It's basically there to entertain, but when you throw it in so much, you're like, God, I just want the fucking fighting to end. And half the time at the end I just ran away. I used flares and I ran. So that gives you an idea that the gameplay isn't all that exciting or fun if it's thrown in too much, yet the developers seem to want to do that instead of focusing on putting more story, because they kept filling the goddamn game with fillers. So the gameplay, well, it's not bad in any means, and it works really well in terms of shooting and, you know, killing enemies. There's too much of it towards the end, not enough weapons, and the some of the enemies are just such a pain in the ass to fight. So the gameplay kind of feels uneven. It's good, but it's definitely not great. I can't say I love Alan Wake. Now, don't get me wrong. When I'm saying it's disappointing, I'm not saying it's a bad game. Not by any means. It's not a bad game. It's just that it didn't live up to what I wanted. The gameplay really is not doing anything for me, especially after Chapter 3. It's just too much of the shooting over and over again, and it's annoying, and these enemies just come out of every end, and they beat the shit out of you, and and the possessing items, and it becomes annoying, the gameplay. The story I lose interest in the story around Chapter 4 because there's so much filler in the game, and too much of this, go to this door, open this lock, open that lock, open this lock. Yes, it's part of the genre, the horror genre, but it doesn't mean it's good, you know? There's bad in everything, and that's the bad part. Now, it's not to say the game doesn't have any redeeming factors. The atmosphere is great. It's spooky as hell. It feels like when you're lost in that forest, it feels like you're lost in the forest. You're looking at every, turn to see where the enemies are coming from. I did like the idea of light and then using a gun. It was used in Alone in the Dark, but it's a lot better in this game. What I also liked in the game is that the story in the beginning was really engaging, and the pacing was really good. I don't know what they did in the later half when they had to fill all that filler in there, but it started off really well, and I'm hoping for the download, content to hopefully fix that shitty ending that the game had. Overall, Alan Wake is definitely worth the play if you want a good horror game or suspense game or whatever you want to call it. But if you're looking for a brand new gameplay or amazing gameplay or something that will make you go wow, I'm sadly going to say Alan Wake did not live up to the hype for me in that.
Wheeler, his agent? If you have business with Mr. Wake, you talk to me. You yokels won't know what hit you once I sick my lawyers on your asses.